This is the College Football Enquirer with Steven Godfrey and Ross Dellenger. I am Andy Staples. And gentlemen, the quarterback dominoes have really started to fall. As we record this, Sam Leavitt, the former Arizona State quarterback, has committed to LSU to be Lane Kiffin's first QB1 as the LSU Tigers head coach. And Dylan Raiola, two-year starter at Nebraska, who entered the transfer portal a few weeks ago, has committed to Oregon.
It's the QB dominoes, the QB like transfer market, whatever you want to call it, the transactions. Reminds me a little bit of the coaching carousel. It's like the QB carousel we're seeing in the last week or so, right? Funny that the quarterbacks are doing it too, Andy and Godfrey. So
I'm afraid Lane goes to LSU, John Summerall goes to Florida, Alex Golish goes to Auburn. Like, yeah, it does sound very similar.
Afraid to have a take. I'm afraid to say that one of these deals is good or one of these deals is bad because Fernando Mendoza is the best player in college football. So it's like, it's a new market. Some of these sound like they're retreads. Some of these sound like they're projects, or maybe school X is overpaying. But I can't even say that anymore because Carson Beck is going to play against Fernando Mendoza next week. So, you'll forgive me if I don't have like a knee-jerk reaction other than to say, okay, wow, that's interesting. And I got one. If I'm Ty Simpson, I don't know if I'm going in the first round of the NFL, because if I'm garnering north of $5 million for 1 year of service, I think I might stick around somebody's campus.
Well, that's second round, like high second round money, probably. Yeah. Right.
Oh no, Ross. It's first round money. Like to make $6 million in your rookie season, you have to be drafted 7th or higher.
Wow,
7th.
Really?
Yeah. So he should go to one of these schools. Yeah. And maybe better his lot or not or whatever.
We will get into the Ty Simpson of it all because he is the one that I referred to in the tease that people are willing to throw money at, even though he has said he wants to go to the draft. Leavitt, I will push back on what you said about I'm not sure about any of these guys, Godfrey. If Sam Leavitt is healthy, and again, that is an issue because he did have foot surgery that cost him the back half of this past season. But a healthy Sam Leavitt playing for Lane Kiffin at LSU, I am not going out on a limb, I don't think, if I say I'm very excited about that. I think he could be excellent in that offense. We watched him playing for Kenny Dillingham, threw a beautiful deep ball, an accurate deep ball, good with his legs, moved around well in the pocket, but can also scramble. Like, he was the most complete in terms of body of work quarterback in the transfer portal. And then he goes to a place with a coach where, I mean, every quarterback who's played for this guy has pretty much put up good numbers.
Yeah, I mean, Jackson Dart is considered the future of the Giants. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but that's just what people are saying. If I read that headline and I'm the same Levin, I would probably follow Lane Kiffin to anywhere. I'd follow him to Louisiana Monroe, let alone Louisiana State. So, that feels like it will be successful. Again, I'm going to continue to use really tepid language, like that looks like, or it feels like, or that might be, because this is such an emerging market. It's going to be really interesting to see how next year's big 1 year transfers sort of pay off, because I don't think we have enough data yet.
No, and it's the same. You feel like when we talk about the coaches, right? You're kind of hesitant to say like, this is going to definitely work, because we've seen plenty of coaches go to schools where we thought he was going to work out, and it just doesn't. It's sort of like a crapshoot. The quarterbacks, because they're actually playing on the field as opposed to all these things that a coach deals with. It's a little easier maybe to peg. But the other part of this is not just playing for Lane Kiffin, but playing at a place that you're going to be surrounded by really good talent. In the last Arizona State quarterback to arrive there, obviously did pretty well, won the Heisman Trophy. So I think that certainly bodes well. This QB carousel, you might call it, like I said, is fascinating. It's every year it seems to get pricier and pricier, and how we've reached a level of over $5, maybe even over $6 million annually for a season power conference quarterback transfer. And, last year it was 4, right? The year before it was like 2. So it's almost doubling every year, which is administrators who believe, there are many of them out there, that things are going to sort of level off and stabilize when it comes to the amounts. We have not seen that going forward. And the only difference, I guess, right now is that, which we're going to get into later, I know, is the College Sports Commission and this enforcement arm. And do they do anything? Like we talked about on last pod, they're threatening to open up some investigations and do some enforcement, because clearly if you're signing a quarterback, one player, to $5 or $6 million deal, it's unlikely you're staying within the cap for a football roster, right? That's around 15 to 17 million. So all of this is fascinating.
So one reason I think the numbers have exploded the way they have, and to give you an example, like we were told that Kentucky was offering Sam Leavitt $5.5 million. So if you're thinking, is it close to 6? Yeah, it's either right next to 6 or somebody's getting offered 6. And I think part of that is the supply was restricted this year. There were some guys that maybe you thought might go into the portal that didn't. And so there was not a lot of proven commodities out there. Sam Leavitt was the most proven commodity, but the like Lenore Sellers, I kind of wondered about, would he go into the portal? He very quickly said, I'm coming back to South Carolina. Jaron Kiawe-Sangapolatelli at Cal, who, replaced Fernando Mendoza as Cal's starting quarterback.
I know, that was impressive, Andy.
Mm-hmm.
JKS, baby.
I wasn't going to let it slide.
Jaron Kiawe-Sangapolatelli. Yes.
Do it again. Nailed it.
Jaron Kiawe-Sangapolatelli. But yes, I remember week 1, like, oh man, the transfer market for that dude's going to be off the charts. But you know what? Tosh Lupoi got the job and he kept him. So,
well, and when everybody's paying a similar amount or close enough, and you're happy at a place, and you're getting close enough money to what you get elsewhere, why not stay now that everybody can pay?
Exactly. And so, I don't think this the price increase is so much. Everybody thinks these guys are that good. No. I think Matt Rule said it very well last year, and he was actually talking about high school recruiting when he said it. But boy, does it really hit home now. Desperate teams set the market. And in this case, the LSU needed somebody, Tennessee needed somebody, Miami needs somebody, Oregon needed somebody all at once. And all it takes is 2 bidders. And when you've got schools like that have been very active in NIL, you're going to get a pretty nice sets of bidding wars there.
I'm at Andy's with me, not with me in the physical sense, but we're both in Charlotte for the AFCA, which is the American Football Coaches Association convention. It's where all the college coaches, except this year, go to talk and drink Miller Lite and a quarter zip and all that. It's basically a giant sort of networking kind of a fraternity type experience.
So many quarter zips.
So literally, this is why I own 1 quarter zip, and it's a sweater. It's not my normal look, as if you're a regular viewer of the show, but I do it because I'm a tall white guy, so I can blend right in. And then so I wear a quarter zip for 2 days a year, and it's when I'm at AFCA. Anyway, nice. The topic of discussion has actually been, you talk about desperate teams, Andy. It's also, what is the situation of the player? And I think that bears out a lot in the market because, it's funny, talking to coaches at all different levels, the food chain has never been more active and more fluid in college football because of the way personnel moves up. Like we've talked Trinidad Chambliss to death, but there's also 1,000 other examples of D2 FCS level players that are moving up.
Godfrey, Lane Kiffin got his 2026 Trinidad Chambliss this weekend too. I didn't mention Landon Clark. Do you know who Landon Clark is? Do you know where he played? He played at Elon. Elon, best known as the school Kurt Signetti coached at before James Madison. So he was a freshman at Elon. So this isn't a pure Trinidad Chambliss situation. It's not that he has 1 year left. He's got a lot of years left, but he was really good at Elon. And so he's coming to LSU. And guess what? If Sam Leavitt's foot's not ready, guess who gets the first team snaps in the spring? This guy.
But kind of more what I was getting at is you talk about certain quarterbacks. Oh, I expected X to go out, or I expected Y to go out. the most recurring conversation I've had this year at the convention is that the financial situations of these families are suddenly sort of on display. So if there is a mindset towards the NFL, let's just talk about quarterbacks for a second, okay? Because the other position groups, it's so different to talk about the other position groups. Let's just talk about quarterbacks for a second.
Well, quarterback is now, because we brought up the NFL rookie salary scale. Quarterback's the only position where you can make more money in college.
Yes.
Like, because
as of right now,
the NFL rookie salary scale is not graduated by position. It is just by where you're drafted. It has nothing to do with where you play. Like, your second contract in the NFL very much determined by what position you play. But the first one isn't. And that's what's different for a quarterback versus everybody else.
A lot of these families, a lot of these quarterbacks are in different financial situations. So you talked earlier about if you like the situation you're in, you like the university you're at. There's a whole other conversation we could have about the Ivies, by the way, because I think the Ivies might be able to hack this entire process in a couple of years because people want that degree. They're mindful of that degree before they transfer out. Anyway.
It's also why Notre Dame is developing people still.
It's actually going to benefit the nerd schools. It's kind of crazy, even though the professional pipeline now seems to be Arizona State to LSU, just like the Ivies drew it up. But anyway, quarterbacks, if you are comfortable enough in terms of your family, in terms of, I don't need an extra 1.5, or I don't need an extra 2 million. I'm making a decent amount of money here. I want to get the degree. I want to stay with this coaching staff, and I want to develop and I've got some pro potential in mind. You're seeing that affect the portal in decision making. Whereas there are, and what I'm about to say, I'm not castigating these people. This is a financial reality of life, and this is why these kids should be paid. Some kids are, hey, if I can make 1.5 million more or 2 million more by transferring again or going to a new system, and I don't know what the contingency of success is. I don't know if I'm stepping into a good situation, but if I can make X money now, I'm going to do that because I'm not sure of my pro potential or my future. And so what I'm hearing from a lot of these coaches at convention is you really have to know the situation with the quarterback and the family, because you might have a kid who the second they get a 10% offer to jump, they're going to have to take it financially.
Yeah. It is fascinating to me that, and this is what Godfrey, what you just said has been used kind of over the years in antitrust lawsuits against the NCAA for prohibiting compensation. And that is, some of these players will never play in the NFL or won't play long enough. And all they get out of playing in college, and in some cases this is enough, but in many cases it's not, is a degree. And that's been used over the years and years of like, I'm not getting value in my school, in my conference is getting millions and millions of it, right? From me playing on the field and being on TV. And 2% gets 2%, right? Maybe power conference schools, maybe it's like 4%. Of football players play in the NFL. So you've got at least 90+%, right, that don't see that value. And now they're seeing that. They're seeing that value. And in some cases, which we're going to, talk about Ty Simpson later, they may be foregoing the value of the NFL for the value they're getting in college, which is such a crazy thing to think about. Because I remember being a beat writer covering LSU, and at the time, I think there was a stretch of 2 or 3 years where LSU had more players leave early for the NFL draft than any school in the country. It was like 3-year stretch, and they had like 18 kids leave early. And nowadays, that would never happen, right? If the number is 18, they would have probably gotten 2/3 of those players to stay by compensating them.
Well, and the whole thing's been flipped on its head, but especially at the quarterback position, because think about the NFL and quarterbacks. We joke about like the Chase Daniels of the world who can be longtime backups and make good money in the NFL, but that's a pretty rare occasion. And even more rare is being a real franchise NFL quarterback who gets a second or a third contract. There's only 32 starting NFL quarterbacks, but I would say right now there's probably only like 18 to 20 franchise quarterbacks where you're happy with your guy and he's either on a second contract or he's on a rookie contract that you are going to pay him for that second contract. So, and it might not even be that many, because like Tua Tagovailoa is probably not that guy in Miami, even though he's on a second contract. So, and Kyler Murray's probably not that guy in Arizona, even though he's already on a second contract. So if you're a quarterback, and especially the amount of money that is flowing in at quarterback in college, it's almost smarter to take the college money. But we are seeing everybody kind of make their own unique decisions, to Godfrey's point. And that brings me to Dylan Raiola, who I think is a really interesting case study, because Dylan Raiola was your classic school jumper in high school. I mean, he 5 different high schools, committed to Ohio State, flipped to Georgia, flipped to Nebraska. So it was a whole lot of seeking the path to playing immediately. Like, he went to Nebraska to start right away, and he did. He was a starter for 2 years, breaks his leg this season, goes into the portal. Nothing that they've done to this point has been looking at maybe slowing down and thinking what might be best for the NFL future here. Except right now, he commits to Oregon. And from what I understand, now, as we record this, there has been no decision from Dante Moore, the current Oregon starting quarterback, about whether he's going to go to the draft or not. I don't know that this necessarily means Dante Moore is staying, but from the people I've talked to, it means 1, Dante Moore is staying, or 2, Oregon is probably going to go after a more veteran quarterback, the aforementioned Ty Simpson being one of those.
Yes. The Dylan Raiola situation is fascinating. This is what Andy, is it 7 schools, I guess, in 7 years, 8 years, going back to his high school days. It's pretty wild. Obviously, if you are Oregon, you're kind of having some hesitancy about that. But Andy, and I know me and you were talking kind of off there before we went on about this sort of rumbling starting last week that this was going to happen, that he was going to commit to Oregon. And I think both of us had the same reaction, thinking that Dante Moore would stick around for another year, which means that Dylan Raiola would be a backup for a year. And our reaction was, well, surely he's not going to go there and be a backup.
Right. Because
it
doesn't
behold,
track with anything they've done.
Right. But maybe this is the and maybe Dante.
Hang on, Andy.
Moore
they
goes,
being the Raiola camp, not Oregon, right?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just for clarity, because Dante Moore,
Team Raiola,
a lot of
not,
his
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
To me, because it sounds like the Moore plan to me, which was come in, sit, but acclimate to the system. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. What Dante Moore did. If that's the case, I think it's great. If we're aiming for a 26 start, it feels sketchy.
Yeah. Well, and the thing about it is, we don't know what Dante Moore is going to do. The way this all works is this: he may have announced the decision by the time this podcast drops. But I look at him and see that he took a different path, because he did start games at UCLA as a freshman, could have gone to multiple schools that would have started him in 2024, elected not to. Said, you know what? I need this year behind this incredible veteran quarterback in Dylan Gabriel. I can learn a lot. I can play for Will Stein. I can learn how to be a better quarterback, so that when I am the starter, I'm ready. And that is not a traditional decision in this market, but he did it, and it's working for him. So I do wonder, would he make it again? Because even if we don't know what the quarterback market's going to be in the NFL, we know Fernando Mendoza is probably the first one off the board. There's not a lot under him, and there are quarterback needy teams. So if you're Dante Moore, even if you're not quite ready, there's probably a chance you get drafted very, very high if you leave. But we already watched him make a non-conventional choice. Maybe he does that again. Maybe this inspired Raiola, who, a little different situation because he was a 2-year starter, but he is coming off a pretty rough injury. So maybe this is the time to hit reset on that and learn to be a better QB. And if you emerge, Dylan Raiola, if you emerge as the Oregon starter in 2027, surrounded by the kind of talent Dan Lanning brings in, be pretty good.
Yeah. Is this where we make a Jets joke? And I'm not kidding. Like, I'm not trying to make a joke.
No, it's not even a joke. Like, if you think the Jets are going to take you, probably stay in school if you're a quarterback.
I'm not.
Like,
yeah.
I'm not joking at all.
Yeah. We're not doing a bit here, but what I'm getting at is if you, okay, I'm trying to think of an applicable situation off the top of my head, but I don't follow. Okay, so if I'm Zach Wilson a couple years ago who got drafted underneath Trevor Lawrence, this has never been an option before, right? To exercise an extra year of eligibility, make money doing it, and legitimate money, not $50,000. We're not talking about some sort of cost of living stipend. We're talking about actual money, 2 comma money. Why not do that? I'm really curious because we started this entire college.
I would not play for the Jets. I mean, we've seen athletes do this. I mean, John Elway did this with the Colts. John Elway said, Andy, "I will not play for you." Yeah.
What if we weren't talking about Dante Moore right now? What if we were talking about Arch Manning? Because that family is notorious for vocalizing during the draft. Yeah, I covered the Eli Manning draft year.
Yeah, Eli's the one person who's like, I don't want to live in San Diego. I'd rather live in New York.
Well, Eli's dad was very active in saying that we don't like the front office, we don't like the roster or the situation. And so, they engineered something that at the time was really kind of like a kind of overstepping the bounds. But now, if I had the chance to, if I had the right representation, which, by the way, is the other major conversation going on here at convention, is who's representing these kids' long-term interests. Spoiler, it ain't good for most of them. If I was able to look at the trajectory of the 2 or 3 teams that might draft me, again, we're only talking about quarterbacks here. I want to be clear. We're only talking about quarterbacks. Or go into a situation where I could make $4 to $6.5 million. It seems like a no-brainer to then roll the dice again, make the money in the meantime in the short term, and succeed at the collegiate level.
Mm-hmm. It does. And so that's why if this is the Raiola plan, which we don't know yet that it is, but we'll find out over the next few days and weeks, I think. If that's the plan, that it might set him up for better success later on. It might set Dante Moore up for better success later on if he ends up deciding he wants to stay. But we don't know. We do know that Ty Simpson has said he wants to go to the NFL, but we also learned that people are just like winding up and throwing money at him. When we come back, we'll talk about the Ty Simpson decision and whether he may need to go revisit that. We'll talk about it when we come back. We are back at the College Football Enquirer, and a reminder, if you'd like to see us in all our glory, go to yahoosports.tv, whether it's on your phone, your tablet, or your laptop, and you can watch all of the Yahoo Sports Network shows, or just turn on your smart TV. Check your home screen. You've probably got a Yahoo Sports Network icon that you can click, and boom, Ross Dellenger's on your television. I know you want to see that.
With lit up golden from the sun, Andy.
That's right. One golden drop of sunlight on Ross Dellenger's face.
On my cheek.
Looks like a lens flare. Like we're going.
It's like better than the whole.
J.J. Abrams film. Yeah. It's like a lens flare. I like it.
When in doubt, pretend you did it on purpose. That's the rule.
Trying to keep it out of my eye. Or if I get it in my eye right there, that wouldn't be good.
Well, we got to talk about Ty Simpson, guys, because on Sunday, AL.com reported that even though Ty Simpson has very clearly said, I would like to enter the NFL draft. This is the former Alabama quarterback. He spent 4 years at Alabama, 3 years waiting his turn, the final year as a starter at Alabama. He said, I would like to enter the NFL draft. The teams are like, we understand you'd like to enter the NFL draft, but we really need a quarterback. So would you like this giant bag of money?
Have you considered money?
Have you considered an obscene amount of money? Like, I don't know, $6 million, $6.5 million.
Hey, I got a question. I don't know if this is still a thing. Could you take an insurance policy out on yourself?
Yeah.
Like Lloyd's of London?
I think so, yeah.
Yep.
I think players have done that.
Shout out my guy Keith Lerner in Gainesville, Florida, who still writes most of those policies.
Cool. So I again started my career covering the Mannings. That was a thing when the Manning boyses would return. They would take out I think at the time it was just a $1 million policy with Lloyd's of London. But yeah, if you could get an insurance policy on yourself, then again, I don't know who I'm recruiting Ty Simpson to right now or against. I mean, certainly stay off the Jets. Nobody
he can
wants to be
definitely
on
afford
the
the
Jets.
premium if he wants to stay in college another year. He can certainly afford the premium on the insurance policy if he needs to.
Yeah. So, Andy, who are we recruiting Ty Simpson to if he stays in college?
Tennessee, Miami, maybe Oregon if Dante Moore leaves.
That's a lovely time. You'll have a great time, bud.
I mean, what
online
happened?
classes?
What happened to the quarterback who was going to go in the draft and then decided to go to Miami? Oh, wait, he's playing for the national title on Monday. Carson Beck.
I was going to wait and talk about Carson Beck on our show preview because I had questions for Ross after this gamer.
We're going to do
Georgia fans
we have a Thursday show for that where we can talk at length about Carson Beck
I know.
in this game.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, it's if I like maybe we're a college football show, so we're missing something here. I know we're all partial to the football that gets played on Saturday, but what's the decision here? If you can maintain, look, what if you actually develop into a better quarterback in Ty Simpson's case, right? He doesn't have the cleanest sheet when it comes to evaluation. I'm saying he's got pro bona fides.
You know who I would call to ask? Like really, if I were Ty Simpson, I would call Bo Nix. I'd ask Bo Nix what he thinks he should do. Because I don't think Bo Nix becomes the level of quarterback he is in the NFL without all of those years in college.
No, he went to Eugene and they power washed the Auburn off of him. You know how hard it is to get the Auburn off of a, I'll make that joke. Y'all know he was dead to rights when he left that school. Come on now. No, why not? And again, I'm not saying Alabama has been to Ty's detriment, but why not add film if you are confident in your raw skill set and then are looking for development? If I'm Ty and I say, all right, I don't want to be a Jet, I'm not trying to say it's Josh Heupel necessarily, or it's Shannon Dawson if he's the OC next year at Miami or whatever, but find someone you feel like can help you build a better year worth of tape so that you can then go higher in the 27 draft.
Well, and Ty Simpson, 1 year as the starter. Like Bo Nix was a college starter for 5 years. He'd been a 3-year starter when he left Auburn. So Ty Simpson has a lot less experience than a lot of these other quarterbacks. Like Ty Simpson has less starting experience than Dylan Raiola, who we were just talking about, who isn't even draft eligible.
Well, and to your point, Godfrey, about the insurance policy, I don't know for sure. It'd be a good question down there for Mr. Beck in Miami, but I'm sure he took out some kind of policy. I would think all of them would take out a policy. I was actually speaking to Trinidad Chambliss's dad last week about this when he was trying to, they're in the middle of, wanting to continue to play in college, but it's sort of uncertain, obviously, with all the waiver situation and the lawsuit pending. But one of the things he mentioned was the risk of injury, and if you come back to college and potentially destroying, any chance of not just a 1 year, because in college we're talking about all these 1 year deals, right? These guarantees, 4 or 5 mil, well, kind of guaranteed. Now we can get
we're going to get to that in a second too.
$4 to $5 million deals, but like in the NFL, you're talking about like a $50+ million maybe guaranteed full-time contract, and that's a lot of money. And so I guess a lot of these insurance companies are very busy these days with these college players.
Oh yeah. Well, and so if you're Ty Simpson, this is all you got to think about. Our producer TJ brings up a good point though, in that NFL teams do like to overdraft QBs. We, again, as we're recording this, do not know what Dante Moore's decision will be, but we do know there are a lot of QB needy teams. We know the Raiders need a quarterback. We're assuming they're going to draft Fernando Mendoza. The Jets need a quarterback. The Dolphins need a quarterback. The Cardinals need a quarterback. I'm sure I'm leaving some teams off that desperately need a quarterback. I just named 4. Okay, if Dante Moore stays at Oregon, someone has to be drafted to play quarterback for these teams.
Well, this is a great point, Andy, and why the NFL probably might want to do something to help its free developmental league, because when is it going to become a point where college players are staying so long in college that it does have an effect on the draft process and the talent on the field for NFL teams, especially at the quarterback position? I think we're going to start seeing it very soon.
Yeah. And they're having to take older ones because I mentioned Bo Nix. very old when he got in the NFL. Tyler Shuck, also potentially your NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year, very old when he got in the NFL.
Carson Beck is the same
Justin
age as
Herbert in college.
Carson Beck is the same age as, like, I think it's 3 current starters are in the same class as him and 1 backup or something like that. I love it when the NFL and the NFL media start criticizing college for what they're failing to develop, especially at the quarterback position. I have chopped it up with many an NFL media pundit for like denigrating the college offensive schemes and making them too. Do you remember when they were too simple, Andy? Do you remember the Jared Goff year? That
so
discussion?
It actually brings me back to a discussion I had with Dabo Swinney. I had this discussion with Dabo Swinney. I want to say it was like 2013 or so, or 2012. And he was saying, and this is what the NFL coaches need to understand, and the NFL GMs need to understand that they have clearly not figured out yet. Dabo Swinney, this is right when he hires Chad Morris, and they change offenses, and they're suddenly running really fast, up tempo. They're out of the shotgun all the time. Dabo goes, I used to complain because none of the quarterbacks that we were signing of recent vintage could take a snap from under center, because they don't do that in high school anymore. And so I would teach them to take snaps from under center, and that would take a while, and we'd have to develop that and all that. And then I realized, wait a second, what's my job? Like, what am I paid to do? And he goes, I'm paid to win games. I'm not paid to develop quarterbacks. Or to teach them to take a snap from under center. I am paid to win games. So I am going to adjust my offense to take what high school is giving me so that I can win games faster. And NFL coaches and GMs, you are paid a lot of money. Adjust.
There is no major sport in the world that pays less to its developmental arm or league than American football. Period. $0. $0.
Because it's the only developmental league that actually makes money.
Even the NBA has a G League, right?
Right.
Every other sport invests in development except for American football. And the amount of pearl clutching and histrionic complaint from NFL purists during certain phases of offensive innovation, which, by the way, they took all of those offensive schemes eventually. Like, once Patrick Mahomes showed them how to do it, they started actually using all those schemes.
Oh, yeah. This works.
I love it when I hear from NFL people about what college quarterbacks need to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so, sorry, to bring this back to the point, I don't care if they're 27 when they get to the league. That's the league's problem, not college's problem.
Exactly.
Well, in college, as you guys know, college has sort of been in conversations with NFL folks for years now on a variety of things that they would like help with from the NFL. And it just doesn't seem like the help is coming, whether it's on the calendar, right, in NFL games and when they're played, and in sort of the timing of the calendar situation. But now it's going to another level, which it's college asking the NFL to help on Capitol Hill here in D.C. to lobby on behalf of them, especially with the eligibility issue.
How's that going, Ross?
Yeah, not great.
What?
The NFL.
Not
here's
great.
why the NFL is not going to do that, because that's going to piss off the NFLPA, and that's probably not a great move. But okay, let's get back to the Ty Simpson thing. If it's really $6.5 million, Ross, I want to ask you this, because you've written quite a bit about this in the last few days. $6.5 million. If we're talking about rev share money, like most college football teams have about 15 million in rev share, because it's like 20.5, and then you've written that number goes up by a couple million. So we're talking about 15 to 17 million dollars in rev share. That is a significant portion of the budget. That is like 40% of the budget, depending on what you're actually spending. To put it in perspective, a big NFL quarterback contract, like if you have a Patrick Mahomes, he's taking up about 20% of your salary cap. So if you want to compare apples to apples there.
That's usually what it is, right? 15 to 25% in the NFL is your quarterback, your starting quarterback.
So how are these schools doing it? How would they afford it? Because if you're spending $6.5 million on a quarterback, my guess is you are not adhering to that cap. You are bringing in some NIL money to bolster.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we saw from the LSU contract through Playfly, their multimedia rights partner, is exactly what we're seeing from a lot of schools when it comes to facilitating and guaranteeing for athletes outside of the cap money through sponsorships. I mean, a lot of people listening that are in college sports probably understand all this, but try to dumb it down a little bit for those who
please
don't understand,
explain
because it is really
MMR to the layman.
complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is really complicated. So multimedia rights partner, and there's two of the two biggest ones in college sports are Learfield in Playfly, big competitors in the market, and a multimedia rights partner pays a school a guarantee to buy basically the rights and sell the rights to that school to sponsors. And when I say rights, I mean the IP, right? The logo, the trademarks.
You can be the
school
official
colors,
bank of the Auburn Tigers.
right.
You can be the official grocery store of the
right.
Texas Longhorns.
Well,
yeah.
So instead of a school going to a bank, right, Andy, and saying, hey, directly to the school, hey, we'll strike a sponsorship deal with you. So you pay us $2 million. You can use our IP rights and things like that. Instead of doing that with a bunch of individual sponsors, keeping a school and a staff pretty busy, they just sell it to one entity, Playfly or Learfield, and they do all of that, right? They do all of the connecting a school with all these sponsors. So Learfield, say, pays, let's just use an example. Learfield pays Alabama $10 million a year to use Alabama's logos, all their rights, all their IP to connect the University of Alabama with all these sponsors. And Learfield, since they paid the guarantee of $10 million, they keep all this other money that they get. They keep all the sponsorship sort of money up to a certain level. And so now what's happening is in this era of rev share, where a school has, as Andy mentioned, the $20.5 million cap this year, which on average, about 15 or 16 million of the 20 is being used to football. And that's direct rev share from the school. But over here, you have this other bucket where players can get above the cap money if they go strike sponsorship deals. Well, the school's using the multimedia rights partner to say, hey, remember all that money that you would go get for us from sponsors? Get it for our players now. So go work for our players and get that money. And so that's what's been happening is schools and multimedia rights have been promising these athletes, especially these quarterbacks that are making a lot of it. Hey, the school's going to give you, say, again, I'm just using an example here, $2 million in rev share. And we're going to guarantee we can get you at least $3 million in outside the cap sponsorship money through our multimedia rights partner. And that's how the LSU Playfly deal was structured. It was actually $3.5 million, which is the biggest number for NIL that I had seen. There's a lot of mad LSU people at me right now. And I understand why, because I used their contract as an example of what's happening throughout the country. But part of the reason I used it is it's the biggest one that I've seen. And it's specifically through the multimedia rights partner. It's not through it's not through a variety of other sponsors. It's just through the multimedia rights partner.
It doesn't break out
right.
which sponsor is going to pay you what dollar amount.
And they promised, right, Brendan Sorsby, that's the proposal was for Brendan Sorsby. You can bet that a similar proposal has been made to Sam Leavitt is, hey, our multimedia rights partner, in this case Playfly, are going to go find $3.5 million worth of deals for you, right, NIL deals for you. And they're using a marketing agency, NIL LSU Max, to do that. It's kind of a marketing agency, a third party between the university, LSU, and the multimedia rights partner. There's this marketing sort of agency that's going to go out and find these deals, right? So that's sort of how it works. And that's how schools are getting above the cap. Now, the next issue is on Friday, we talked about this a little bit on Saturday's pod, but on Friday, in an announcement that was probably not coincidental that it came three days after my LSU Playfly story, is this College Sports Commission put out a letter saying that it is concerned and has begun investigating some of these deals because, again, these deals are NIL guarantees without the specific sponsorship deals being executed. So there are these guarantees made to players without these specific deals being executed. And that is a risk for a player who could have, at some point when these individual deals happen, not pass through the NIL Go system. And thus, the player, if he had accepted this guarantee, would be ruled ineligible. So that's happening. And then there's a third thing, the last thing, and I'll shut up here about all this. It is, I know, confusing.
I have questions.
I'm going on. Is Learfield the other?
This is very interesting.
The other multimedia rights partner, the biggest one in the space.
Yeah.
3 days again after the story on LSU Playfly, released a letter to all of their school clients. I think there's like over 200 schools that they have bought the IP from, saying that while they are sending out interest letters to athletes, which is similar to like an offer letter, right? They're not guaranteeing any of that. They're clear they're not guaranteeing it, and they're not advancing the money until all these individual sponsorship deals are executed and go through NIL Go Clearinghouse.
Okay. Why is LSU mad at you, fans?
Oh, well, I think that just because I guess they feel like I'm targeting just LSU by using that contract as an example, because a lot of people are doing it, but that's the biggest one that I've seen.
Okay.
And it's the one
so
that
they've got Texas. They've got that Texas Tech syndrome of like, they don't want to be thought of as purely in the purchasing game. All right. Next question.
Sure.
If you are guaranteeing against, we could probably do 2 episodes on Learfield and not completely scratch the surface on sort of the, let's call it circular logic that's used in that space. Guaranteeing against is not guaranteeing, right? Like you're saying that we have the potential to fine you $2.5 million. That's a lot different than saying you are going to make $2.5 million, right? Yeah. So one of the things that I found interesting about the specifically the LSU Playfly deal is the $3.5 million. It actually says it in the contract. If NIL LSU Max, which is just this marketing agency created by LSU and Playfly, if that entity does not find Brendan Sorsby, that was who the contract was for, $3.5 million, there's a guarantee that it'll be backfilled by NIL LSU Max. Yeah, that is the big hang up, right? That's the big
that part won't go through the NIL Go system.
This spelled out a specific guarantee, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if we can't get this money for you, yes, it is. It is a.
But we're just dressing up the guarantee.
Well, no.
Here's
what he's saying is Learfield is now saying they will not. They will not
do. No. I'm aware. But the initial offer still guaranteed that amount. And then now everybody's playing CYA by saying we can't actually guarantee these amounts. Mm-hmm. But the original piece of paper says some way, somehow, from some bucket, this will be owed to you.
Here. Yeah. I was going to even read part of the line from it, but basically,
do you remember that story I made up about 11 years ago, Andy? Remember I made it up? They didn't go anywhere. Guess what?
Meet the bagman
with us. They're still with us, boss.
But here's the thing: the bagman is dealing with a lot larger dollar figures now, and
inflation is kicking the bagman's ass.
Also, there's still nothing morally wrong with giving people money for being good at sports, and unless you collectively bargain a salary cap, you can't enforce it.
But here's what this is where I'm going.
The main part of all this. Yeah.
But Ross, like all of the reportage that goes into this, and all of the semantic deck chair arrangement that we're involved here. All we're really getting at here is that they're trying to make whatever increasingly large number they're offering quarterbacks comply with some standard or operating procedure that hasn't even, like, we're a year into rev share, right?
That they
already
created, by the way.
This. Yes.
They created it themselves, and they're trying. And Ross and I responded to this tweet last night because you had the string of tweets explaining this Learfield email. there was something in the email, if I'm not mistaken, about them saying they were going to limit it to 20%.
And that
total.
is a fascinating part. Well, let me explain how that works, because that is really fascinating and certainly has
hold on before we start
gotten
doing
attention
math
from administrators.
Ross, before we start doing math, let's pause, because I want you're going to have to gather your breath in your lungs here, because we're going to need more Ross Dellenger explanation here. So when we come back, Ross is going to explain the math on this, because I'm bad at math and Godfrey's bad at math, but Ross is good at
Real bad. Yeah, went to Ole Miss.
We'll be right back. We are back at the College Football Enquirer, and when I left earlier, Ross Dellenger was about to explain some math to us, and that is how these MMR companies, multimedia rights companies, Learfield says it will limit the amount going to players to, I believe, was it 20%, Ross?
20% of each school's sponsorship
total deal
budget. Yeah. So and that can range really widely, which again, so this goes to, this is a good example of how the bigger brands in the sport can have the advantage again in this field. Someone like Ohio State, in Alabama, in Texas, have sponsorship budgets of probably well over $25-30 million, maybe upwards of $40 million. And when I say sponsorship budgets, that's the pool of all of their corporate sponsors, all the money that the corporate sponsors are paying to sponsor them. And that usually, so like an example, right, is like a field logo. Maybe it's $250,000, or stadium naming rights is maybe $5 million. And you combine all these and you get to that number. Learfield has said of all that, of each school's total sponsorship budget, they will allot 20% of it to go to this marketing fund that they've created with each school that then distributes money to that school. So good example is the average for a power conference sort of sponsorship budget is around $15 to $20 million, right? So the average of 20%, of that is going to be around $4 to $5 million. So you would think that the average power conference school would get $4 to $5 to $6 million in additional money for their roster through
which
the NMR
sounds
partner.
about right for the average school. $20 million bucks sounds about right for schools that are trying to win the national title. They're going to be
Andy that
much higher.
That would be taking $15 million rev share. Let's say plus $5 million. There's your $20 million roster. But the issue is that we know that schools are spending more like 25 to 30, at least in the top 10 or 15. And the question is, how are they getting there?
Okay, so what's the answer before I go off?
Well,
can I?
We don't really know.
I ask a question?
But
because
let
me play the school, and you be Learfield, Ross. So I'm going to be the school this time next year.
I know what you're going to do.
You be Learfield.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, Learfield. That 20%, I'm going to need you to raise that to 40%.
Well, we can't do that because we're giving everybody 20%.
Your deal is terminated. We're going with Playfly. We're going to go with Playfly
across the. Then I will be turning in everything to the College Sports Commission.
You go right ahead, because we have a great attorney general in our state, and I don't think it's going to hold up in court.
And that's the problem. Yes, that is the problem, because that's where this all probably is going to go. It's going to go to court. And with Learfield, I asked the question to Learfield in some follow-up, like off the record conversation, is like, why are you doing the 20%, right? And the response was, we want to be consistent across the board, and we believe that no school, we want these deals to be as legitimate, obviously, as possible. And if we go more than 20%, we know that a lot of these deals probably will get kicked out of the clearinghouse. The spring will be interesting. We'll know a lot more this spring.
So I'm going to try and summarize all this. We're not any closer to calling the spade. And we're going to continue to dress up compensation of athletes and also try and cap these schools equally, at least on a semantic sort of paper, like on paper we are. But you asked earlier, we don't know where the money's coming from. We do. We know it's coming from the same places it always has. it just seems like any attempt to regulate a fixed amount of compensation across the spectrum is never going to work. Like, we're never going to have a salary cap ever. We've been fighting against this morally for so long in so many different semantic ways. That's the word of the day here. And it just seems like we're doing the same thing over and over again. If, like Andy has done this before, like if we say it's 40 million, okay, someone's going to spend 45. If we say it's 50 million, someone's going to spend 55. So are we just going to constantly be in a sort of legislative loop where we have to show this on paper? Or are we ever just going to give up the ghost and just say they're going to spend what they're going to spend?
Well, so this is, it's a great point. And I've had 2 sitting Power Conference athletic directors in the last few days, given everything that was reported about the MMR last week. Both tell me, Ross, there shouldn't be a cap at all. Just lift the cap. And everybody spends what everybody can spend. And because the cap is tough to enforce, and we're obviously seeing this all the multimedia rights, sponsorship deal, apparel deals, all this stuff contributing, and the cap just sort of ballooning, that everybody should just spend what they want to spend.
If we went with a pure free market restructuring, which is terrible because anytime you say pure free market restructuring in non-football terms, the American economy usually eats it at some point, but we're just talking about college football right now. Seems like it would be a faster direction to the point that we're headed inevitably anyway, which is that schools that can afford X amount, sort of a clustered amount of dollars, are all headed towards one another anyway. We know this behind the scenes.
Yeah.
We talk about this on other topics. If we cut the crap out completely and eliminated everything with maybe even with the inclusion of the CSC, and just simply broke membership. So like, you're headed to the NCAA convention this week. If you just eliminated all that and if the schools with like-minded bank accounts, and I'm talking about boosters here. I'm not talking about your TV deal. I'm talking about who wants to spend this money. If Texas Tech is spending $50 million right now, and Texas is spending 50, and so on and so on, they're going to migrate towards one another. Eventually, is there any way we can cut through this and just let that occur without 10 years worth of lawsuits?
I mean, sure. I think it's been talked about enough that some administrators want to go and just go all in and do the collective bargaining, and they think that is the way to get there. I think that's where we're probably headed, but to your point, Godfrey, I think it's probably going to take years of lawsuits to get there in the end.
If it was a totally free market, like some people have suggested, which, by the way, the original creator of this podcast, the OG Dan Wetzel, he says just do that, and it makes sense.
But let God.
But if that happened, now let's be real here. What would everyone complain about?
Oh, they wouldn't have anything to complain about?
Well, they would have.
No,
they would
definitely
complain,
find
but they would have no basis to complain.
They would still. There's going to always be somebody spending more than you, right?
Yes.
Probably.
Well,
there's going to always be somebody
quit being
spending
poor.
So
we're at best we're headed to the Major League Baseball model. At worst, or probably likeliest, we're heading to the English Premiership, which is that you have to spin your way into relevance, and it doesn't mean that Norwich City doesn't exist, or Sunderland. It just means that they're not going to be Man City, who's owned by someone in the Gulf who just strokes a check and never shows up.
Hey guys, we're acting like this is going to create some wide chasm between the haves and the have-nots.
This is where I'm headed. It's already here.
Well,
it's
but
always
here's
been
the thing.
here.
Next episode is all about Indiana and Miami playing for the national championship. Indiana is playing for the national championship in football. That's one of the schools we all said would be left behind. Not left behind. Considerably better. Indiana. Think about that. And we'll talk to you on Thursday about whether Indiana.
That's what we'll talk about.
Indiana can bring home an actual national championship in football, which they might. We'll talk to you Thursday.